It's the West Midlands versus North London, Paul Lambert versus Mauricio Pochettino. Just 1 point separates the teams in the standings 9 games in. Let's hope the villains can rediscover their scoring touch in this one. Welcome to everyone watching our pre-match show, both on AVTV and free on our official YouTube channel this week. We're in the home dressing room here at Villa Park. Opposition analysis with Steve Froggatt is coming up later. First, let's get the thoughts of the playing camp. Captain Vlaar talking after Monday night's 2-0 defeat at QPR, and right back Matt Lowton following his first appearance of the season.
Let's look forward now. Spurs coming up at Villa Park. We've been in this position with you before. We've discussed the need to bounce back and show some character after a disappointment. You've got to do that now, and I'm sure you'll be able to rally the troops, and you can do just that against Spurs.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, but realizing that what you just said, you know, it cannot be always good, but we just need a result and get off this streak of losing games in a row, and you know, that's the only thing that helps now, and we realize that.
Yeah, it might just be one moment of magic, just something to kickstart it.
Sometimes you need a luck, but we have to earn that luck, you know, and that's not what's happening at the moment.
You know, they're on the back of a difficult defeat in the league to Newcastle, but they've still got lots of quality players in there.
They have, yeah. You know, it's going to be a tough game. I mean, they're another top side, you know, but we've got to make sure that we go out and we just try and play our game as we have been doing. And like I say, hopefully the goals will come, and you know, we'll have the fans right behind us again and get another 3 points.
Yeah, lots of talk about Lamela and his Rabona goal. Ever tried one of those?
No, I think I'd fall over, to be honest. I remember I was sat watching it and I was a bit in disbelief actually why he even tried it, but it's, you know, it's an unbelievable finish. So we've seen people like that do that, so you know, we've got to make sure that we're tight and not give them a chance to, you know, think about anything on Sunday.
Yeah. Do you just need that bit of the brain to do it, or I mean, technically, it's a big ask to be able to perform that sort of feat?
It is, yeah. I think his confidence must be sky high to be, you know, to be trying something like that. So, like I say, we've got to make sure we try and stop him, you know, building his confidence even more.
And the thing is, Spurs are only 1 point above Villa in the table,
yeah.
And I know that they've had a few difficulties, and Pochettino's just taken charge effectively, but that just goes to show you get a good result there, and you can be moving in the right direction again.
Definitely. I mean, we've had a great start. I mean, if you have a look at the fixture list, if you spread those games out over the season and put other ones in that we'll win later on, you know, we might not have been in this situation, but you know, the fixture list is as it is, and you know, now then games are out their way, we've got to get our head down and try and move back up the table.
And you just have to think that Villa Park, it's set up, isn't it, as we talked to you before, great stadium, you'll never forget the goal you scored, will you, in the win over Swansea there, and yeah. That sort of electric atmosphere, if we could just get that again, it would make all the difference. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we understand that we've got to, you know, give something to the fans for them to get that atmosphere. You know, it works both ways. We've got to give something to them for them to be buzzing. So hopefully, you know, we get off to a quick start. You know, hopefully a quick goal, and if that atmosphere gets going, then we know that they'll drive us right through to the end.
Our thanks to rearguard pair Vlaar and Matt Lowton, both of whom were here with the rest of the squad for the open training session in half-term week. The club's young fans love that, and a great idea, Froggy, to get junior supporters so close to their heroes.
Yes, it is. I think it's something that's really important for the club and particularly the local community as well. It's a good day out for the kids. You know, parents find it very difficult to come up with ideas of what to do during half term. So to be able to come here and meet their idols and see them in a training session, which is totally different from a match day, when you can see what sort of work the players get up to on a daily basis, I think it's very, very good.
Yeah, there's a purity, there's a natural exuberance and enthusiasm of youthful support, isn't there? And it can give everyone a lift.
I think it's good as well because it can make the training sessions quite competitive.
Yeah.
Because behind closed doors on the training ground, you know, you get about your work. But when there's a crowd of people watching you kind of step up a little bit as well and try and impress the kids. And I mean, it's just, I think anything to do with the community and the football club is good for the future. You know, if you can start bringing young kids to the ground in those sort of one-on-one situations, and you know, they get to see their idols and have a signing session with them, which doesn't always happen during the games because obviously the players are fully focused on match day.
Yeah, the lads were being put through their paces onto the match day then. Spurs, the opposition, and Mauricio Pochettino, you might say it's been a struggle for them so far. Who would have thought the club he left, Southampton, would be 8 points above his new one in the early standings?
Well, it's incredible. You know, Southampton have just won 9 of the last 10 games. Who would have predicted that? Especially, everybody was saying they were relegation fodder at the start of the season, having lost so many top quality players. But Koeman, who's, you know, did a brilliant job in Dutch football, has come over and he's just really taken the team forward, and all their good youngsters. I mean, one thing about Southampton, they've got a fantastic track record of bringing kids through. Different situation here for Pochettino. He had a lot of quality kids that he could coach. Now he's got bigger name players. Spurs spent the best part of £100 million last season on a group of foreign players that just didn't deliver during the course of the season. And we all know, you know, when foreigners do come over, it does take a period of time. But to bring so many over, all big names, big money, it didn't quite happen. And under Tim Sherwood, I think Tim realised where the difficulties were. I think he realised there was no real leadership on the pitch. There was no real physically strong characters, particularly in the middle of the park.
Yeah.
And I think we're proving that hasn't changed this season. Pochettino's come in, hasn't really brought in too many of his own players. I think he's relied mainly on the money they've spent on the players from last term, and the players are still coming to grips with his methods. Although they did have a very, very big League Cup win in the week, which I think has maybe just taken the pressure off him just a little bit.
Yeah, it was a big blow for them losing to Newcastle, but then they bounced back. They're in the last 8 of that competition. Inevitably, it was going to take time for him to impose his philosophy on a new club.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when any new manager comes into a football club, it can't happen overnight. It just takes a period of time. And we are still talking about a period of players that were still getting to know each other. I'm sure Mauricio is still trying to find his best team. And I still don't think he's found it yet. Although I think confidence would have really helped by beating Brighton in the League Cup. You know, their league form has been really hit and miss. They haven't been playing great, not been scoring lots of goals, but they've been conceding too many as well. So he's been having to make changes in the backs in the last few weeks.
Yeah, you saw them in the flesh, as it were, against Manchester City in that lunchtime game. They lost 4-1, didn't they? But you were telling me it could have been 5-5. They actually do carry a considerable attacking threat, even against a team of the quality of the reigning Premier League champions.
Well, it was an incredible game of football. It could easily have been 6-6. Aguero could have had 7-7 by himself, actually. You know, he had that many opportunities. But that's the one thing Spurs do, look, going forward, they are impressive. They've got creativity, they've got imagination going forward when they've got the ball, and they've got willing runners as well. Ryan Mason had a one-on-one with Joe Hart very early on, should have scored. In fact, Joe Hart made 3 world-class saves that game. That really helped his team overcome Spurs and win the game. But you know Tottenham will be a real threat, particularly away from home. They'll come out, they'll set the stall out. But the one thing that concerns me about them in particular, and maybe a way of getting at Tottenham, last year I thought they had a soft underbelly. And it was something that Tim Sherwood was almost saying every week. You know, there's not real character of strength in that dressing room. And I saw the same thing against Manchester City, Jack. They look like a team that are very happy running forward, very happy on the offensive, but they've got too many players that when the ball goes the other way, they sort of fudge responsibility. Not enough heart, not enough steel. And if you can get into an early lead against these, I think they start looking around as who's going to stamp some authority on the game, and I don't think they've got any leaders in this team.
So Villa can take advantage of that, is what you're saying. They can exploit that weakness in the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing you'd be saying is that offensively, you've got to be alert. You know, you've got to concentrate for 90 minutes because they've got players of real quality, of which we'll talk about in a while. But defensively, you can get at them. You know, they're missing key players defensively through injuries and whatnot. But every time I've seen them at the back, they look... And I think it stems from the midfield boys as well, because everyone will blame the back line. But I think you defend from the midfield, from your front men backwards. But the midfield lads are brilliant going forward, but I don't think they work hard enough. And with our hard work in midfield, I think it's a real... The midfield's a key battle on Sunday, Jack, because I think if we can outwork them, they won't fancy running the other way. And if we can break into the penalty area and get bodies into the box, if we can get our own creativity right, then I think we'll cause them a few problems. But conversely, they will be hard to handle the other way.
You mentioned Ryan Mason, a young English midfielder who had a decent chance in that game against Manchester City. A lot of people might not have heard of him before this season, but he's come in and done a very good job. He might be an important player for Pochettino.
Yeah, I think what's particularly fascinating about Ryan as well, and I saw him at close quarters against Man City, where I thought he was terrific. He's done the rounds. He's 23 years of age, but he's been on loan at 5 separate
Well, I'm
clubs.
just having a look. Doncaster, Yeovil, Millwall, Leyton Orient and Swindon. So he's got to ground him, but this is a big step up.
So he's got game experience going around the lower leagues, and I think that's great for any young player. You know, eventually when you break into your first team, he's had, you know, his hardened match experience, which he's had plenty of. But he was a forward in his younger days, who's now an attacking midfielder. And you can see when he plays, his natural instinct, Jack, all the time, run forward, run forward, run forward. And I think he's transformed the midfield this year in a way that they didn't have last year, where they had willing runners willing to get him behind all the time. Because with Eriksen in the middle of the park, they've got real creativity. And he's brave. He will go and go and go. He'll dribble, he'll run forward with players. Not entirely convinced about him going the other way, the same as the other lads in the middle of the park.
But he does get into scoring positions.
He's a massive threat from a goal scoring perspective, because if you see how they set up, and we'll talk about it at the end, they need runners to get him behind.
They do indeed. And, you know, he must be seeing this as a wonderful opportunity to really kickstart his career.
Well, it's great because when you see, you know, you look at Spurs as being a top club because they've spent £100 million on foreign players. I know they lost Gareth Bale, but they've spent an absolute fortune. But there's still room for the likes of him, Harry Kane. We'll talk about Harry as well towards the end, who have come through. You know, Harry can't stop scoring goals right now, and he may be a starter at the weekend. I think Mauricio's got a big decision to make about who his mainline striker is going to be. But it's great to see any young English kids coming through and being given an opportunity like this boy has. So
there is still a chance for a young English player, so long as you're hungry, as long as you've got that desire and you can slot into a top team. Because let's face it, Spurs are a Champions League chasing team. They may not have started well, but that is their ambition. Now let's move on to a classy Dane, great creator. This guy, when he's on it, he is a tough one to keep quiet.
Well, as we saw against us at the end of last season, this boy's a quality operator. He's the only one out of all the foreign players that came in last year. He stood out like a sore thumb. You know, he took to the English game really well. And we've mentioned in the past, Jack, about Scandinavian players are quite at home because their leagues are quite physical. So when they come to the Premier League, it's not a shock to their system. And he's a really good lad. He's not big, powerful, not physical. Again, doesn't like running the opposite way. I'm going to keep saying this all the way through this. He doesn't like going the other way. Doesn't like to be taken back into his own penalty area. But when he's got the ball at his feet, he's a quality player. And you just look at the stats for him.
Well, he's a crucial player for them, isn't he? When you look at that, you know, they're looking to him to be the hub, to be the instigator.
If you look at the same period, he created 40 more chances more than any other Spurs player. So you see how integral he is in terms of creativity. And creativity is a big key word in the Premier League, because you have to have these sort of players to unlock the door to create chances, and he does it time and time again.
We'll we can see him in action here, and he was exceptional against Villa on the final day of last season. He ran the show and handed 2 of the goals, and they really found it difficult to keep him quiet.
Yeah, he's a real gifted player. Like you say, he finds balls other players can't. You know, he'll look one way, he gives the players the eyes, he'll put the ball in. Everything's a forward pass. He's one of those players where he does see the game 3 passes ahead of everybody else. He knows, he plays the ball, he moves. He's quite happy, you know, playing just behind the front man. He'll drift over to the left. He'll be all over the place. I think one thing we can't afford to do, especially with a good player like that, don't give him time and space. We will have to get right on top of him early on, hassle him physically, because I don't think he likes the physical side of the game. He isn't the strongest in the world. I do think, you know, if we can try and bully him a little bit, you know, he may well crumble. But I say, when he's got the ball at his feet, he's very cool.
Yeah, he seems to have a lot of time on the ball as well, doesn't he? At 22, he looks older with that receding hairline, but boy, oh boy, he can have an impact, as we're seeing here.
Yeah, he certainly can. Like you say, once he gets the ball face, it's funny with him as well, because you look at him, he hasn't got lightning pace.
No.
But somehow he's got a trick, or you know, a body swerve or a move, and he can beat a player. But it's that passing ability. And if you're a player like him, what you're looking for, you need runners. You're relying on players like Ryan Mason, who we talked about, to get in behind. And that's where defensively you have to be alert, because if players are coming in behind, you'll know that Eriksen will always be on the ball looking to find a player through a gap in the defence.
He should be perfect for Pochettino. That's the type of player that would suit his style of play. And he's just one of many, as you mentioned, who came in, Andre Villas-Boas. You know, they signed a raft of players when Gareth Bale left the club, and he might really start to come good now.
Well, let's say out of all the foreign players, he was the only one last year that you could say performed really well. I still think there's a lot more to come from him. I mean, everybody when he signed for Spurs, they were talking about him being as one of the top European midfielders. I don't think he's actually been in great form for his home nation, and was recently criticised by his own manager as well. But Spurs have been very up and down this season.
Yeah.
They're looking to find their way, and the pressure's on them because Pochettino was brought in for Champions League football. They look a long way off that right now.
Yeah, let's hope Eriksen is subdued. Shall we move on? The man of the Rabona fame, Eric Lamela. What a goal it was! Everyone's been talking about it over the last couple of weeks when he wrapped his foot around the other one and curled it into the corner in the Europa League.
I can't tell you how difficult it is to do that. And as we've seen from one of our neighbours, Dunny, when he tripped over the ball, that's why most players don't even try that, because you can end up looking really funny. You see players from time to time doing the cross. I suppose that's a little bit different, but to actually to score in that manner was just sensational. And when he signed for £25.8 million from Roma, he was the one everyone thought was going to be a star of the Premier League. And last year, he was hopeless.
Yeah, he was a flop.
He was
in reality, flop. He just couldn't adjust.
He was that bad.
Culture shock.
He was that bad, Jack. In the end, they had to get him out of the first team squad. Tim Sherwood, in the end, because he needed results to get them up the table, he left him out because he just simply didn't produce enough in a game. But what he's got is incredible ability. I just think he just looked physically overawed, Jack, last year. He's quite weak. He's a tall boy, but he's really, really slender. I think he's toughened up this year. I think a year of being in the Premier League, foreigners eventually get it. They realise that to succeed in the league, it's all right being talented and good, but you've got to be stronger as well.
Yeah, and this footage, by the way, is from the Capital One Cup last season when they beat Villa 4-0 here at Villa Park.
And he's a player very much in the ilk of Eriksen. What this boy is different to Eriksen, he can run with the ball. When he gets the ball at his feet, we'll see now, he's very quick after the yard of the ball, he's got real close control, but he's always looking ahead as well, like Eriksen. So they've got two boys in the middle of the park with real quality, real vision, and just something different that a lot of Premier League teams don't have. And he's somebody we have to be really careful of because he's been very good this year.
The goal he scored, the thing is everyone's trying it. Well, anyone who can physically is attempting it on the training pitch, in the streets, in their back gardens, whatever. But now, I suppose they're all waiting for him to do it again. And it's unlikely, surely.
That's a 1 in a million, Jack. He'll never do that again. In fact, I'll have money on it. If he ever tries it again, he will trip over. He will trip over the ball and it'll go into Rose Ed. I mean, people say it's brilliant, lucky, whatever. I mean, it was brilliant, and I don't think there'll be many goals better than that in the league this year.
He came off the bench and did the business in the League Cup this year against Brighton. When they needed him, he came up trumps.
Again, I think he's building his own reputation, and obviously scoring a goal like he did, I think it's football's about confidence, Jack. I think if you score a couple of great goals and everyone's talking about you, and he's the sort of player he is, he's definitely a confidence player. His confidence was really low last year, which is why I think he failed to deliver on so many occasions. This year, he's in the team. I think the manager's put an arm around him, whereas I think last year Tim was on him all the time and just in the end gave up on him, I think, because he just wasn't producing.
And I'm sure he felt like a peripheral figure, didn't he? And if you feel like that, you must have had spells in your career when it happened. You come into training, you're going into the matches, and your heart isn't really in it because you almost feel like others don't believe in you. Whereas at this point now, he knows he's central to the manager's plans.
I think the thing you've touched on there is, I think if you come back from an injury, like Big Christian right now, the weight of the world is on his shoulders, expecting him to deliver. And unless you've been in the situation, you know how unfair it is, because for Christian's sake, to come back from an Achilles rupture, he's going to need another 5 or 6 games at least before he gets his sharpness back. That yard off we saw against Queen's Park Rangers, he hasn't quite got the yard yet. That will come. That's time. But the Premier League is an unforgiving, impatient place, and obviously we need goals and we need a result right now. He had the same problem last year, except for he wasn't injured. He just wasn't fit or strong enough for the Premier League. But he's a really good player, Jack, and he's got better and better. His confidence will grow. Let's say he's come on against Brighton and scored the second goal. He'll be coming to Villa Park Sunday full of confidence, and he's not afraid to try something. I love players in our league, players that have got imagination. Those players that are not afraid to do something out of the ordinary, because there are so few in the Premier League that when you do get to see them, they're always a joy to watch.
But let's have a look at their last league lineup. Of course, they made 10 changes for the Capital One Cup game against Brighton, which they won to book a date with Newcastle in the last 8. But Vertonghen was the only one who stayed in. But this is the last league liner, and they were right back on the heels. They were 1-0 up, looking good, and ended up losing by 2-1.
No, it's quite funny because Mason, according to that, is playing behind, but you'll see how many times he'll get in behind. He'll run through the gaps there.
Right.
I think the one thing Tottenham's big trouble this season, Jack, is the front man, because they've played with one man up front, and it hasn't worked out. I think when Soldado's played up front, it hasn't worked because I don't think he's capable of leading the line. I think he needs to play with another one. Adebayor is in and out, isn't he? He can be fantastic one day, not so great the next. I think the big decision really Mauricio's got to make. Does Harry Kane start?
Yeah, I'm not asking you to read his mind, but what do you think he should do, given the fact that Harry Kane, as you say there, he's put himself in the firing line, hasn't he? He got the hat trick in the Europa League. Less said about his goalkeeping, the better. But then he scored again, didn't he, against Brighton? So he looks to be the form man up front.
If it was me, I think I'd go with Kane.
Right.
And the reason I'd go with Kane, because when you're looking for someone to lead the line, he's a good old-fashioned English centre-forward because he's physically strong. And he can score goals as well. He's quite mobile as well. He makes decent runs, but he leads the line really well. And I think if you play with one man up front, the one thing you need him to do, especially when you look at the players in behind him, you're forward, you've got to hold the ball up. Because if you hold the ball up, he will bomb. He will run around. Chadley is quick. He will bomb on as well. Lamela, quick. They'll run in behind. If your front man doesn't hold the ball, these guys won't run. So I think the main thing for us is to do is whoever plays up front, don't let them get hold of the ball.
Yeah.
Make sure that they don't get on the ball and allow these players to run forward. I think defensively, they're all capable players. Kabul's very big and powerful. Vertonghen, he's a decent player. I'm not entirely convinced with him as
Lloris is a good keeper.
Lloris is a fantastic goalkeeper, and he's really proved himself in the Premier League. But Dyer, again, he's come in and done really well. Rose, but I do look at their back four and think, yeah, you can get at them.
You can. There's no Kyle Walker, which is a shame. He had a great loan spell here, and he really appreciates the chance for the game to get regular football. And he went on, got on the England team, but he's injured at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been seeing them in the flesh. They're not invincible defensively. And I'll go again. Those three will not run that way. They hate running that way. I think they've got a soft underbelly. I don't think they've got any leaders in the team. You look at the likes of Capu, people like that. I'm not convinced yet. I'm really not convinced.
Right. So when they lose the ball in those positions, that's when you can get at them with a quick counter.
100%. Yeah. I think when you look at, if you look at our midfield and the work rate of our boys in the middle of the park, if we can swamp them in the middle, then if we can make runs the other way, they won't follow us.
Yeah, maybe.
Or at least in the games I've seen, they don't do it, Jack. And I think that's a massive weakness of theirs, which is why they've conceded so many goals.
Maybe you should go with Harry Kane, because Adebayor and Soldado have scored against us in recent matches. Soldado got one of his few goals here in the league last season. Now, Villa's lineup at Loftus Road. You were with us at QPR, and well, our eyebrows were raised, weren't they, when we saw the team sheet, first of all, because it had a few surprises in there.
Well, surprises, but mainly because of injuries, though, Jack.
Yeah.
It's a huge loss, losing, for me, what I think has been our best player in Alan Hutton.
Yeah, big blow.
I think not just defensively, but as an attacking point of view, because of the way we play in the middle of the park, and we're quite narrow. Even with the front lads as well, we play. At Loftus Road, we were quite narrow. You really are relying on your fullbacks to be an outball all the time. Matt Lowton was an outball a lot on the Monday night. So you are relying on your fullbacks. Your fullbacks have got to get forward, join in, try and get crosses in the box. Because whenever a cross did come in the box, the one time I remember Lowton in the second half getting a real peach of a cross in. I think Joe Cole and Big Christian got in the way of each other. But he's relying on that sort of delivery into the penalty area.
Yeah.
We need to find a way. Sometimes when you're on a bad run, sometimes you've got to go back to basics, Jack, which not everybody think is. You don't have to be pretty all the time. Look at Queen's Park Rangers, what they did to us. They needed a win. They needed a goal. It was a Route 1 diagonal 60-yard ball from Dunny into Zamora, who we knew was going to be a real threat in holding the ball up. So it was a Route 1 goal. It was a great finish from Austin, but Route 1. Maybe at times, because we need a result and we need to fight our way into a bit of confidence and into a win, maybe that Route 1 ball into the big lad is not the worst in the world. If you can get players amongst them, and the reason I'm saying that, more so against Tottenham, because as I keep saying, their midfield three will not run backwards. They're lazy, Jack.
Right.
You get the ball into him, and you get our midfield boys running forward.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, it becomes a threat. I thought was brilliant in the first
player,
45 minutes.
Yeah.
I think he tired, and I think as he physically tired, mentally he started making mistakes.
Yeah,
and unfortunately for him, I felt gutted for him actually, because he didn't deserve to be at fault really for the second goal.
Yeah, but he gave the ball away in the build-up, didn't he?
Because what he did in front of our back lads, I thought it was terrific, breaking up the play. His passing was superb.
Yeah, so you think he'll stay in there? Because he did freshen things up a bit.
But Sanchez is no different, Jack, to when we mentioned the Spurs players. None of them, I mean, Spurs has spent £20 million on all of them players each, and a bit. None of them delivered other than Eriksen last year. It's taken them a season, Lamela, to come into their own. Sanchez, he's new to the Premier League. I think Sanchez will, having seen him in the flat, I think he'll be a star for us, but it might take time. And it might take time for him to impose himself 90 minutes on the game. But we need a result, and somehow we've got to fight our way by hook or by crook to do that at Villa Park.
There's been some frustration, some exasperation among the Villa faithful this week. You've sampled it, doing the phoning that you do, and also with us. But all you've got to do is try and turn it into a positive and get right behind the team now. That's the key, isn't it? For those 90 minutes on Sunday afternoon, is to really give it everything, and they can make a contribution. I'm sure the players can feed off that, but the players themselves accept that it's up to them to lift the fans with the quality of their performance. So it's a two-way thing. Yeah,
but I've been in there as a player, Jack. You know, it's very easy to play when things are going well. Everybody wants the ball. Everybody wants to get involved. When you've been on the back of a 5-game losing streak and not scored a goal, of course questions are asked. That's inevitable. Fans aren't happy because they want to see their team win. They want to see everything go. This is one of them games. How many men have you got? You'll be looking around your dressing room, stand up and be counted. And the one thing I can promise against Tottenham is that we can bully them.
Right.
Without any shadow of a doubt. But it's about the basics. First tackle, win it. First cross, make it a positive. First pass, make it positive. Win your header, win your second ball. Then you get the fans on side.
Yeah.
You know, that's not about quality. That's not about, I'm a little bit nervous, a bit apprehensive because my confidence has gone a wee bit, which is understandable, bearing in mind the run they've been on. But they've got to realise what made them, the first few games of the season, get themselves up into the Champions League spots, as it says. And they've got to fight and scrap. And they've got to give the fans something to cheer about, because supporters, as much as they'll turn against you, they can go with you if you put a performance in. And the one thing we know, Jack, is that our boys, we know, are capable of a performance, because we've seen it the last 2 years. Even though it's been difficult times, and our league form has been up and down to say the least. We have at times when the foot's really been on the players, so they've delivered something.
Yeah.
Something to give people something to hang on to. And they've got to do it. They've got to go into their mental reserves and find a way of coming up with that performance.
European Cup winner Andy Vlaar with me for all the action. Make sure you join us. And it would be great to see you at the game. The lads would really appreciate your support. In the meantime, here are some goals from previous meetings. Thanks for watching.
Here's Milosevic. More near post. Draper! A goal for Aston Villa! Headed in by Mark Draper. Sit towards him and Milosevic. Grace. Now Fernando Nelson. That's a push by Milosevic. It wasn't given. Collymore. A goal for Draper. A gift. It's Draper's day, Boxing Day. They're behind Clements. And Collymore! Well, that should be it. And Stan Collymore is in the news for the right reasons. Collymore! Walker is beaten again. Stan Collymore celebrates a special free kick. It's been too much time for DLW. bit since he's moved to work on the training ground at these set pieces. Oh, he's got a chance! He's got his first goal! Forwards have far too much to do in that match. Dublin is away. Can he make it two? What a debut this is turning out to be.
All the way! Oh, that's a strike! Absolutely sensational from Gareth Barry, and Aston Villa are level. It's Lowton! Another set piece, another goal for the defender. Something in there for him. It's Melbourne! He finally got rid of the Tottenham defence and puts Aston Villa in front with 5 minutes of the half to go.
Within play and out across towards Carew. It's good. Villa are back in it, and what is it? 6 minutes to go.
Brighton. Good ball. Collins! It's gone straight in. Oh, deflected in. A massive goal for Aston Villa. Brad Greenlaw, the former Villa keeper, completely wrong-footed by the deflection.